Okay, hey, as promised, I'm a minute or two late, but I am here, and I'm going to start off with the muffins, okay, because they are so good. I'm going to let them be cooking, and then I'm going to demonstrate the gravy. Now, I'm not going to demonstrate the stew beef. Well, first of all, I'm Dr. Nancy Stanley, physical therapist and health coach, and I'm here to help you help yourself and to demonstrate to you really how easy cooking is. And there's so many good healthy recipes out there that honestly once you do them a time or two you don't need a recipe anymore. I did want to show you something before we got started. Look at that. Is that not beautiful? I got to get it up above the comments. Look at that. I mean, that's almost as big as my head. And this white one is a triple bloom. It's an amaryllis. I ordered these little bulbs and gave them to some folks, and I just love them, but I'm going to put it over here out of the way, but I just wanted to share that. My love for flowers just overcomes me sometimes. Okay, so I know I got a lot of stuff out here, but most of this is going to be gone in a minute. All right, so you start off with some coconut oil. I've even bought some avocado oil in the spray, and I love these little muffin tins. I made some earlier in a regular size tin, but these are just kind of fun, so I just squirt, in each little hole. So I'm making a half of a recipe, and the reason is if I make too many, I eat too many. So I'm just making, I made the half a recipe earlier, and I'm making the other half of the recipe now. Okay, so let me get these glasses out of the way. All right, so right in here, I've got 3/4 cup of almond flour. So I found this at Big Lots. Yeah, Big Lots. I wanted to say Tractor Supply, but not. And this is super fine almond flour, and you see it's $9.75. So it is kind of expensive, but medicine for using flour and gluten is expensive too. Ask anybody that has gluten issues or diverticulosis or diverticulitis or any of that. So the recipe calls for 1.5 cups, but I'm halving it. So I'm using a 1/2 cup in here. I'm sorry, 3/4 cup of superfine almond flour. And then it calls for a tablespoon of baking powder. And so I am putting I moved my, so I'm putting a 1/2 tablespoon of baking powder in there. I need that for later with my gravy. And then it calls for it calls for eggs. So it calls for 2 eggs, and I had 1 big egg and 1 little egg. I get my eggs from my neighbor, and so I'm gonna beat these eggs up. You know what I forgot is it calls for butter. So I'm gonna have to put this butter in the microwave. Oh, I got some up here. I forgot about it. There we go. Okay. So that was the butter I was going to use for my gravy. All right, so there we go. So melted butter. And you know why I've got that napkin over the butter? Have you ever had butter explode in the microwave? That is not fun. So you're going to combine the butter. Now let me show you this little thing. There it is. These little spatulas, first of all, they're heat resistant. But they're great for just that. I want to get every bit of that butter out because honestly, just that little bit left in there is about 1/4's worth or 30-cent worth. So I want to get it all, and I love butter anyway. This is a 1/4 cup of sour cream. Now you think, why is it so runny? Well, let me tell you what happened. The sour cream froze or partially froze in my refrigerator. And so normally you would throw that away because, the milk particles break down when they're frozen and thaw back out again. But I can use it in this recipe because it's not, it doesn't need the same consistency. So think about that when you're thinking about your ingredients. You don't want to waste your ingredients. So I'm kind of blending that up together good. You want to beat those eggs until they're kind of frothy, okay? So that's what I did at the beginning. I took my little fork. You seen your mama do that with a fork? Okay, so that's what I did. So I'm adding all that mixture to this almond flour, and I'm just going to stir it up, mix it up, and I might even, well, it's really fine and everything was beat up good, so I don't Now, and then it calls for, I believe it's a half a cup of cheese. So that's how much that is. The first batch I didn't put the cheese in, and my husband was like, I like those fine too. So, you know, you can do them. The recipe calls for garlic. I didn't want to put garlic in it just because I didn't want the garlicky bread flavor. Now let me show you, this is a little secret trick that I'm going to show you that's going to make getting these muffins into this pan easier. Okay, so here we go. I need another hand here. I wish somebody was here to help me. I'm going to spoon this batter. Here's how I can do it. I can fold it down like that. I'm going to spoon this batter into this. Anybody got any idea what I'm about to do? Okay, I'm spooning this batter, and I like to get every bit of it because the ingredients are so expensive. So I don't want to waste any. So here we go. I'm just setting everything back there. All right, so I'm getting all that out, all that goodness out of there, and put that right there. Okay, so I'm going to pull this up like this. I'm going to push it over to the side of the bag like that, and I'm going to clip off the end. Okay, and I've already made these, so I kind of know how much it takes off. That may not work out too well. We'll see. I've never used this bag, this kind of bag that didn't, oh, it's squirting out the side, so I'm making a mess. Let me see if I can do it this way. All right. This may be a disaster. This may be one of those disaster videos. There we go. It's squirting out okay. Not exactly what I want, but there we go. I figure I'm going to make about a dozen of these because it made about 6 of the other kind, the bigger ones. All right. So if the grandchildren were here and I hadn't messed it up, I would have let them do this squeezing because they love to do that. Okay. So I've got this oven on 450, and I've actually got it on convection just because they cook really evenly and quickly on convection. So I'm about to get it all out. Are you having fun watching this? A mess? Okay, one little bit more on that one. Okay. All right, that was a little messier than I thought. Okay, so we're up to temperature here. So I'm going to put these in here, and they're going to go about, it says about 8 to 10 minutes, but because they're small, I'm going to check them at about 5 minutes. And you know, the thing I like about doing them in this little pans like this is there's more brown part, and everybody likes the brown part on the muffins, right? Okay, all right, so here we go. I'm about to show you, let me move this stuff out of the way. Okay, I'm about to show you how to do gravy with cassava flour. Now, if you already know how to do gravy, then this is nothing new to you. But here's what I'm making. Well, I'm going to show you when I get done. All right, so here, let me move this over here, and I'm going to turn this on. I think I'm going to turn it on. Okay, let me see what happened. Something got unplugged. Oop, yep. Okay, here we go. All right, got my. Okay, so I'm going to melt this butter. I'm going to let it get good and hot. Okay, and I have to put up with that little fan on this thing, but that's okay. That's to protect this. All right, so here's the gravy that I made today for this stew beef. So you see, it's just like, it's a little bit clumpy, but that's because it's cold. And I made it with butter, cassava flour. I'm going to move this back over here so you can see them. Cassava flour and, cassava flour. Butter and cassava flour. All right, so here's what I've got. I've got a little strainer, but I'm going to use it as a sifter. Now, this cassava flour is really fine. I mean, it's just as fine as any kind of flour. But I just like to kind of let it, I like to use my little sifter to let it kind of gradually go into the pan. Now, let me get my little, I'm going to use this again. I'm going to use my little spatula again. As you can see, I don't like to use a lot of utensils. I kind of So I've got about 2 tablespoons of butter. Now what I'm going to do with this butter, this of course is Kerrygold butter, and this is salted. It's because they didn't have any unsalted at the store. You know, sometimes you go in the store these days and they don't have everything you need. All right, so, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to let that brown a little bit while I measure out. So that was 2 tablespoons of butter. So I'm going to measure out 2 tablespoons of cassava flour. So here's what the cassava flour looks like. It's pretty expensive too. I think I actually got this at Walmart. So, but you won't have to add much salt to this because the butter was salted. Okay. So I'm just going to let that butter brown. Okay. I'm going to let that butter brown, and I'll see over here I have forgotten something. Yeah. Okay, so you see it's starting to brown up. I don't know if you could, yeah, that's enough. So I'm going to start putting in the cassava flour, and I'm probably just going to do a tablespoon because I'm looking over here, and I had already poured my broth, the juice that had cooked off the stew beef. I had already poured that up. So here we go. If I pick that pan up, it's going to make an error sound, but then as soon as I put it back down, that's the thing about these, not convection, what do you call them, conduction? I'm not sure what they're called. Somebody on here tell me what they're called. All right, so I'm browning this is what I'm doing. And that's what I like about this little spatula is it's heat resistant. So I'm browning it now. It doesn't do this cassava flour because it's made from a root. It doesn't thicken up like immediately like regular flour does. And then I'm just adding this au jus from the stew beef that I cooked today in the Instant Pot, and I'm going to tell you about that in a minute. But I'm going to turn this down to about 2, so that would be low on your stove. And you're going to see it start to thicken up. Look at that. It's already thickening up, and I would add some pepper to it, and that's just delicious. I mean, you can't beat that. Look at that, how pretty and creamy that is. Now, you probably, and if I had more juice, I would add more juice to it. But I don't have any more juice, so that's what I've got. I do have some more juice in my pot that I could probably strain out. Yep, there we go. Okay. All right, so there we go. I'm going to turn that off because I cooked it. It really doesn't need to cook. And you could add milk if you like milk gravy, but I probably wouldn't add milk to this. I usually like to add milk to like chicken gravy, you know. Okay, so I'm going to add some pepper, and that's going to be so good. And now, okay, so let me tell you how I did this stew beef. So, well, before I do that, I'm going to turn this off because that'll turn that fan off. Okay, I'm going to push this forward, and I'm going to show you this. All right, so here we go. So I cooked this spaghetti squash. I cut it in rings, just like this, and I cooked, you see how I have already peeled this, and it comes out, and it's soft. Let me check on the muffins. Here we go. Oh yeah, they're already done. Look at there. I figured they would be, and they are so pretty. All right, turn that all off. Look at there. They maybe could have gone a minute more, but they're definitely done because when I touch them, they bounce back. Okay. So, you saw how quick that was to make those muffins? Yeah. So here's how you peel. Hold on a minute. I'm going to use my fork since that's what I got. You peel this, you stick your knife or your fork like right under the peel and then just go around. And if it breaks loose, then just pick it up but you want to scrape all that off because these little boogers are expensive, these little spaghetti squash. That's about, with that over there, about $3 worth of spaghetti squash. So, all right, so I take one. Here we go. And I cooked that on 450. I think I had it on 20 minutes. You just want to cook it until you touch it and it's soft. But you don't want to overcook it. But that's what you call roasting them. They're roasted, okay? I can do them, and I have done them in the Instant Pot, but they're mushy, and they don't have the same texture, so I don't do that. All right, so I put one ring in the bowl here, and then I'm going to serve up All right, so this is the beef stew. Now you're probably thinking, well, that doesn't look like beef stew that I've had. It's got something else in it. Well, let me tell you what it's got in it. It's got, yum, it's got spinach in it. I just put a pack of frozen spinach. So I'm going to tell you, hit the like button because I'm telling you it's delicious. My husband said that's some of the best stuff you've ever made. So I'm going to tell you how I did it, and then maybe another night I'll demonstrate it, but I had to have supper earlier. So I had 1.5 pounds of stew beef, or beef stew beef. Y'all saw the questions. I think it was mostly that the meat is called stew beef, and when you cook it, it's called beef stew. Okay, so this is beef stew, and the meat is stew beef. All right, so everybody has their own opinion, right? Okay, so I didn't even brown it. I've tried it both ways, and honestly, I can't tell the difference. So I put that stew beef over in the Instant Pot with a carton of Kettle and Fire bone broth, and then I put 2 beef shanks. I bought the shanks, and honestly, the shanks looked like ribeyes. They had this bone in them. That's all the bone they had, but the rest of it was just pure beef with marbled beef, and it was so beautiful. But I wouldn't have just used the stew beef because it was very lean, no fat in it at all. And that's not going to be as flavorful. It's also not going to be as healthy because I want some good fat. This is all grass-fed beef from Reedy Creek Market. All right, so I'm going to, and I put that in there. I put a whole onion. I put 2 celery stalks. I put about 2 tablespoons of Italian seasoning. You may not like that. I put about 1/4 of a cup of Bragg's liquid aminos. Y'all know what that is. All right, here you go. Bragg's liquid aminos. And then this was the Kettle and Fire bone broth, but this is the chicken. I used the beef. You want to order this. I ordered this in a 6-pack from it's bone broth, okay? If you make your own, you're going to have to boil bones for about 12 hours. And this is made from, this is organic free-range chickens, okay? So I love that. All right, and then I added, so I cooked the meat first, all right? I didn't put any garlic because I didn't want a garlic taste in this. And then I cooked that for 30 minutes in the Instant Pot. Then you have to let that cool. And then I dumped in there a bag of organic spinach, frozen spinach, and a bag of organic vegetables. Now, it does have corn, does have peas, which is not totally optimal, but it was all organic, okay? So, dump that in there, and then cook that for about 12 more minutes, and took it out, and that's what you got. And then I made the gravy with the broth that I dipped off. So you see this gravy. It is beautiful gravy. Look at that. And now, if my Big Daddy was here, I see you on here, Terry. You remember my Big Daddy. Here's what he would have done. He would have taken that cornbread and cut it open. In fact, I'm going to do it just in memory of him. He would have taken that cornbread and he would have cut it open just like that. And he would have, or he would have done this, or he would have told my grandma, Ma Betty, he called her Betsy, to hand him a glass of buttermilk, and he would have crumbled that cornbread up in that buttermilk. All right, so that's what he would have done right there. Or if it had been pot liquor off of rutabagas or anything else, he would have done that too. Hey, Uncle Danny. Yep, I know. Yep, he was a good one. And you know what he'd say? Give me another rasher of that. That's what he'd say. Give me another rasher of that. Any of your kid folks ever say that? I'll take a rasher of that. Well, this is a rasher of cornbread without any corn. There's no corn in it. It's totally gluten-free, and that's what I love about it. And the gravy. So you think you can make this? Of course you can. Yeah, hit the love button. You can make this, and it's totally healthy. And you know, this is how we're gonna be healthy and stay healthy, is if we eat healthy. Okay? Nothing artificial. Just just a few ingredients, And there you go. I want you to look at this meat. It's so beautiful. This is a piece of that stew beef, and it is really, really good. It's really tender. That's what's good about using the Instapot. It's like having a pressure cooker, but I don't have to watch it. I just turn it on. I actually turned it on and went for a walk. And then I came back. That was cooled down, and then I just took the lid off, put the bags of vegetables in there, turned it back on 12 minutes, finished cooking some other things. And, you know, this is, I've got supper now for the next 2 nights. Now, I'm fortunate. My husband will eat the same thing 3 nights in a row. But, and you know what? He's like, what else would we have? A peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or a hamburger from a fast food, or chicken from a fast food? Who wouldn't love this, you know? So I just want to encourage you to be healthy. Hey, Dolores. Hey, Melanie. Hey, Marcia. Hey, Tony. Yeah. Hey, Melanie again. Okay. I turned the oven off. Okay. So here we go. Bon appetit. And I hope you have a great night. Thank you for joining me. If you want to see these videos, I actually shift them over to YouTube. My friend of mine does that for me because it takes forever for my internet out here in the country to do that. And it's at Dr. Nancy Stanley. So go there, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell, and then you'll get notified when a new one is posted. And but I've got a lot of videos on there. I've got a lot of information on there. I'm going to be posting some old ones. Hey, you could use a chuck roast. You totally could use a chuck roast. Yep. Especially if you don't have a butcher that you can tell them what you want. But, yep, I've seen my mama cut up a chuck roast plenty of times, or a blade roast, plenty of times to make stew beef. Yep, or beef stew. Now, when we grew up, you put potatoes and carrots, and I'm sure celery, maybe green peppers. I'm not really sure. I never liked it growing up, but I've been craving it the last year or so. I don't even know why, but I love it, and I've already had a bowl of it earlier, but I'm going to have some tomorrow. It's going to be really good. So I hope you have a great day. I hope you're staying well. Yeah, let's see what Bridget says. The frozen vegetables are better than the canned ones. Yes. Well, if you could get them straight from the garden, no. You know. But here's what happens. The frozen vegetables, this is what the information says. They actually are flash frozen on the farm. So they're preserved right there. The vegetables you get that are fresh, who knows how long it's been since they were picked. So I really do like to use, and Walmart has a pretty good selection of frozen organic vegetables, more so than even Kroger and Publix. So when I go, especially if I get spinach, I get cauliflower, I get the mixed vegetables, I get, occasionally I'll get sweet potatoes, but I really like to do my own sweet potatoes. They're a little bit different because they have a shell around them, you know, they have a peeling on them, and, but it's very hard to find organic sweet potatoes, and anything that's grown in the ground, I'm going to eat organic, like onions, sweet potatoes, even I'll buy white organic potatoes sometimes. Just, you know, my family's coming, you know, I'm going to make mashed potatoes, or I'm going to make French fries. You know, it's not something we have a lot, but occasionally I will. And by the way, I use the cassava flour to batter my French fries. That's one of my children's and my husband's favorite things that I make is battered French fries. I remember, all right, so some of y'all are on here from Lyons, Georgia, which is where I grew up. We went to the cabaret. My granddaddy would come and he would take us to the cabaret, and they had battered French fries. And that's where I got that from. So I cook battered, whenever we have French fries, I always batter them. And I'll demonstrate that one night, because it's kind of a tricky thing to get them where you don't burn them. But I use the cassava flour, and I cook them in avocado oil. I never, ever, ever am going to use vegetable oil again. It has so many toxins in it, and it's just not healthy, especially canola oil. and just vegetable oil, but you can use avocado oil. I know it's expensive, but here's what I want to say. Disease is expensive too, you know? Yes, and people are seeing that now. Disease costs us so much money. So why would I drink diet drinks that have aspartame in them that causes disease? Why would I use high fructose corn syrup? Why would I do that? It's not good for my body. I wouldn't put cheap fuel in my car because it wouldn't run right. And so I want to run like a well-oiled machine. I don't know about you, but I've been going all day long today. I'm 63 years old. I've had very little to eat. I did eat a muffin earlier. When those came out of the oven, I'm just going to tell you, I couldn't resist. I took that muffin and I put that butter, that softened butter on it, and I just had me a little feast, and it was so good. I don't think I can eat these because I'm full. I wish there was somebody here that would eat them. But I'm certainly not going to throw them away. I'll probably put them over, cover them up and put them over to the side and maybe eat them tomorrow along with some of this beef stew. But I hope you're cooking healthy. I hope you're serving yourself. Let's see what Marcia says. The cabaret, cannot spell it. Yeah, C-A-B, you got it right. B-A-R-E-T. C-A-B-A-R-E-T. I remember those fries, yes, and their hamburgers were so good. Okay, if you want to hang around, I'm going to tell you a story about the cabaret. My granddaddy would always come down from Atlanta, and there were 5 of us kids, and he would take us. We didn't eat out. I mean, you know, with 5 kids, I mean, we just didn't. I mean, when we went on vacation, we ate out because my mom was not going to cook on vacation. But we didn't eat out. When they came, usually we had killed a cow and we would have a feast with hamburgers and steak, but we just didn't go out to eat. And but when my granddaddy would come, he would take us all to the cabaret to eat, and they had wonderful fried shrimp. I wish I could remember the waitress's name that worked there. If Tommy Alexander was on here, he could tell me because his parents owned it. Marcia, do you remember their names? Melanie, do you remember their names? Okay, anyway, it's kind of like the waitresses at Chatters now. You know their names because you saw them regularly. But anyway, they would, so my granddaddy was driving, of course, and I remember I was sitting in the back seat, and I can't even remember what kind of car he had. But we pulled up to, you know, there's a big plate glass window. There's a church there now, of all things, that they've added on to. But we pulled up to the plate, we pulled up there, and the brakes gave way on the car. And I remember my granddaddy just pumping the brakes. Now, he was a big old man, and he was literally shaking the car. The car went up into the hedge, okay? And I don't think it hurt the car, but it sure did scare us. And, you know, after that, I don't even remember. I'm sure we ate, but it was definitely something to talk about. So I'm glad you joined me. I hope you enjoyed that little story. And it's good to see some of my friends from Marcia's on here. Her daddy was a congressman, and Malone Sharp. And, yeah, so I loved him. He was a handsome young man, yeah, I had a beautiful wife, Connie, and yeah, and loved him and loved that family. They were related somehow, I think. Marcia, you could probably tell me, but you know, a lot of good memories from Lyons, Georgia. So thanks for joining me, and go cook something healthy, and we'll talk soon. Have a great night.